So I think I took only 15 minutes of your time for LTCG, not more than that. So I'll move on to the next subject, which is the employment schemes to promote employment, which have been announced. Honestly, do you think that a formal sector company will be impelled to recruit people just because you're giving 5,000 rupees EPFO break?
No.
So what is the benefit of the scheme?
I'll explain. See, let me ask you, does the existence of a research and development tax incentive induce any company to do research and development? We are told by industry that it induces them to spend extra on research and development. We are told by companies that the existence of accelerated depreciation or of investment allowance used to incentivize the purchase of equipment. We have been told repeatedly by CII and others that they respond to such fiscal incentives. So the point is not that, so just as a company will not do R&D just because the government is giving a tax incentive. No, obviously not. But if it is deciding to do R&D, it may do more R&D if it can get a tax deduction. Similarly, if it gets a subsidy for something, it tends to do more of it. That is the principle we are operating on. So it's not as if a company will start employing people because there is a subsidy. Absolutely not. But there are two things we are seeking to influence. Please.
No.
So one is, when you employ somebody, you often have a choice between engaging a person who's already employed somewhere else. What is, you poach somebody. So businessline poaches from Financial Express. That's one choice. You can take an experienced journalist from somewhere and take it's a hypothetical example. Don't get, let me move off business line. Okay. So no, you take somebody who's already employed. That's one possibility. The other is you recruit a fresher, somebody who's never worked before. Typically, companies avoid the second as far as possible. They always ask, how much experience do you have? The experience column of the CV is critical in the recruitment market, and it's difficult for a person to break in to employment without experience. This is a universal truth. So given this choice, and one of the reasons is a previously not employed person is often less productive in the beginning. They are not used to how things work. They take time. They have a longer learning curve. All that we are saying is, if you're taking a first timer, we will give you a subsidy. So at the margin, if you have a choice to make between a person who's not a first timer and who is a first timer, the government will subsidize the hiring of a first timer to a particular extent. And this is targeted more at the lower end of the wage spectrum. Will this produce? Let's see. But it's a subsidy. Now that is part one. The second part is that if you're recruiting 50 or more first timers, or 25% of your existing workforce as first time, there's a second scheme. There are three schemes, A, B, and C. B is if a company decides to hire 50 first timers in block, then we subsidize them for 4 years, and the cost is 72% of 1 person year's employment, spread over 4 years. It's a substantial subsidy. Why do we do this? Because if you're recruiting first timers, you probably have to invest in training them. You probably have to put a lot of effort into skilling them. So we are saying, look, we all understand that our education system is not perfect, that our skilling system is not perfect. There are various, gaps in the system. We cannot fix those gaps overnight. We can say that we must have better schooling, better skilling. All that is good. It's not going to happen in the next few months. So what we can do in the short run is, if you face a skills gap, please spend some money on it, and the government will subsidize these people whom you're taking, who are unskilled, who are first-time employees. And the subsidy is 24% in the first year, 24% in the second year, 16% in the third year, and 8% in the fourth year. So it scales down. This completely covers the EPFO contribution of the employer. It also completely covers the EPFO contribution of the employee. It will be paid partly to the employer and partly to the employee. The first scheme is even if you hire one first-timer, the A. B is if you hire 50 or 25% of your existing workforce. So, second. The third scheme is not on first-timers. It says if you increase your level of employment from its current level, we will completely pay the EPFO contributions of your new staff for 2 years. And this is in all sectors. The second one is in manufacturing. Yeah. The third one is in all sectors. And it doesn't have, the threshold is only 2 employees if you're a small company and 5 employees if you're large. So if you increase over the base and sustain that increase, we will subsidize the employer by paying for 12% of the wage for 2 years. And if you employ more than 1,000 people, we'll subsidize for 4 years on the same basis as in scheme B. So these are fiscal incentives. It is our, and by the way, before the budget, we had extensive consultations with both, not just industry, but also employers as a group. We had a separate consultation with employers, outsourcing firms, manpower, recruitment agencies, etc. And they all said that subsidizing helps in recruitment. Now, maybe they are not telling the truth and you may know better, but I believe them. So we have decided to respond to their request and subsidized entry into the workforce. Now, what will a company hire just because you have? Absolutely not. But it is both. By the way, there was something in Britain called the temporary employment subsidy, late 70s, early 80s. It is credited with having accelerated or created 500,000 jobs in that relatively small country. Why? See, at the margin, companies have choices. I may be a high-tech company. Maybe most of my manufacturing is done by machines. But do I also pack them into cardboard boxes with a robot? Or do I pack them in with humans? So there are marginal choices which many companies make between one tech. Do I use artificial intelligence for more of my coding? Or do I use less artificial intelligence and engage programmers instead? All of these are cost and efficiency trade-offs. In those trade-offs, microeconomic theory, microeconomic evidence, and the feedback we got from people suggests that these choices can be influenced by fiscal incentives. So at the margin, even a high-tech company has a choice on becoming 100% robotic, 90% robotic, 85%. Maybe they can never be 50% labor. No. But there are choices at the margin. Similarly, you may have a footwear company which is fully labor-oriented. But even there, they are installing more and more machines. Now, they can choose to have more mechanization, less mechanization. So I agree with you that it will not lead to job creation where no jobs would have been created. The aim is to increase the job intensity of growth, not to create jobs per se. But how many jobs are created for one unit of growth can be influenced by fiscal incentives.
Get it. So for the purposes of this schemes, formal sector means also MSMEs, or are they out?
MSMEs are also in formal sector. So in the first scheme covers everyone, not just MSME. It covers partnership firm, sole proprietor, everyone who is on EPFO. It only covers formal. We want people to get social security in this country. We don't want people to be outside the social security system. So if they are in EPFO, they are covered in scheme A. B is only for manufacturing. It's for companies and for all non-corporate entities who have a 3-year track record in EPFO. These are fraud prevention measures. The reason it's not that we are against MSME, but see, forming a company has a lot of costs and it's difficult to form a company just to claim a subsidy. But it's not easy, it's not difficult to form a sole proprietorship just to claim a subsidy. So we have said if the MSME has a 3-year track record, it's eligible, even if it's a proprietorship firm.
Okay.
The third scheme is for all. It's again eligible to all, including manpower and outsourcing companies.